Warning, the following video will be discussing a visual novel aimed at adults which contains explicit content, usage of slurs, and discussion of death. While this video is edited and written in a way that's appropriate for the average YouTube viewer, this video will not be suitable for young viewers. Please watch this with discretion. I was pretty young when I discovered my interest in feet, and I honestly felt pretty awful about it. When you're growing up in a Christian household being taught who and what is okay to love, it blindsides you when your brain makes a connection that feels so wrong. I felt a level of shame day in and day out, feeling as if I was cursed with something revolting, repelling me from ever finding the solace of a relationship. Who'd ever want to date someone like me, a gross, disgusting, sick man who isn't anything close to normal? It took a lot of time to accept it as a part of me and properly come to terms with it. It took so long in fact that it delayed other massive discoveries about myself, like being pan and being trans. Depending on what environment you're raised in, you either see the world in a tightly knit bubble where you are told who and what is right to like, or you're raised healthily, understanding that people are complex. They can find attraction in almost anything, and a large majority of those attractions are perfectly safe and moral, even if you label it under your umbrella definition of weird. I doubt this part of myself being brought to light doesn't raise a few eyebrows, because I get it is kind of strange. Feet aren't meant to be perceived as an attractive body part. It just clicks in some people's brains that way, and that's okay. There's nothing inherently wrong about finding love in something that's somewhat unconventional, and that brings me to the topic of today's video. Slimefeet is a game I just played recently, and despite its incredibly short runtime, I honestly loved it. It's an experience that I've never had playing a game before, not just because I've barely touched anything in the visual novel genre, especially the mature side of it, but because of the surprisingly emotional and relatable story on display. And yeah, I know how that sounds. The creepy looking visual novel with graphic descriptions of lustful, fetishistic passion is relatable to me, what a shock. But it's honestly much deeper and has much more to say than just playful flirting between two dorky lesbians. The game is presented with a really cool visual style, which I've recreated visually to put this video together. There's no explicit artwork, there's no animation, and there's barely any characters. All there is are the cute, dirty, and emotional chat logs between 𝘃𝗏 and 𝗵𝗡, soundtracked by dark ambience and drone. While you would expect the chat logs to be messy lesbian cybersex, which in all honesty, a fair chunk of it is, the chat logs are a surprisingly tough read, as 𝘃𝗏 has caught a life-threatening virus named miasma with a life expectancy rate of 10 days. The virus causes your skin to discolor from the waist down, and your cellular integrity falls apart as your skin and bones become slime. 𝘃𝗏 was put into quarantine over this, so during this time, she and her girlfriend 𝗵𝗡 start messaging each other daily. The logs start quite rough, as 𝗵𝗡 finds it awkward to communicate to 𝘃𝗏 due to her life-threatening condition. But over time, they both start flirting and having fun together, despite their physical distance. You'd expect the overtly sexual side of Slimefeet to be pretty depraved and erotic, but there's a human nature to the dialogue that honestly makes these interactions between 𝘃𝗏 and 𝗵𝗡 much more sweet and captivating. They misspell, they joke around, they throw the slur faggot around like a verbal tennis ball. You become immersed in how real and how human their messages are. As a faggot myself, I heavily relate to how they talk. Me and my partner Sophie talk like this all the time between each other, and I heavily commend the writer nadianova on the dialogue. The dialogue is genuinely one of my favourite aspects of Slimefeet, as it feels incredibly authentic to how hypersexual queer folk communicate, especially through memes such as online dating. The dialogue can be messy and incredibly depraved, but there's a sweet, loving nature to the words, capturing a pure, warm love that 𝘃𝗏 and 𝗵𝗡 share. I especially found a lot of comfort in the character of 𝗵𝗡, as I honestly see myself a lot in her character. She's dorky, she's bubbly, she likes feet, and she's also a trans woman who is very positively represented. She's also into some strange things that the game represents in a very healthy way, as 𝘃𝗏 comes off as non-judgmental toward her and even embraces her wants and desires. It's really nice to see an incredibly open-minded protagonist, as it's rare to find a protagonist who engages with a stranger side to attraction with such grace and respect. One part of the story that really stood out to me was the body horror angle. Body horror is a personal favourite subgenre of mine, as I feel it explores an avenue of horror that's really intriguing and disturbing. Not having control of your body is terrifying, especially in how body horror approaches the loss of control. So seeing a loving, caring person lose that control is really sad to witness. The aspect I found interesting regarding the body horror was how it tied back to the cybersex. During the first few days, 𝘃𝗏 and 𝗵𝗡 only focus on the familiar, engaging with what they know and enjoy. As the days go on, however, 𝗃𝗏 starts to flirt with the idea of getting Abby attracted to her slime condition, her slime feet in particular. It's honestly fascinating how the story flips 𝗃𝗏's condition from horrifying to erotic, while still keeping some of the underlying horror of the situation intact. 𝗃𝗏 and Abby understand how horrific the whole ordeal is, but are doing their best to try and pull a form of queer hypersexual pleasure out of the pain. They virtually fuck, they exchange virtual hugs, they talk about how warm they make each other feel. The sex thing is written in a way where it's not even a writer's barely disguised fetish, it's parading around in the bloody open, but there's honestly something quite charming and sweet about the writer's honesty seeping off the chat logs. I know this game is incredibly short, and I know how crazy this may sound, but if you are interested in giving this game a shot, please skip to the time code here. The game is free on Steam and is honestly worth your time. I'll be discussing the ending in 3, 2, 1. While reading through the chat logs, you know the inevitable is coming. It's quite haunting when Abby texts a lot of messages and 𝗃𝗏 takes a second to respond, because you never know the point where 𝗃𝗏 will type her last ever message. When you reach day 6, 𝗃𝗏's daily entry says, "I got slime feet," and when you close the entry, you expect the ambience to kick back in, and you're ready for another day in the life of our two dorky protagonists. But the silence is never filled. Abby starts sending messages saying she liked 𝗃𝗏's entry and asking if she's there. At first, the lack of a reply makes her think 𝗃𝗏's asleep or gone to the toilet, so she waits. And waits. And waits. She starts messaging again, uncertain, desperately clawing at the possibility that 𝗃𝗏 must still be alive. Day 6 is the shortest day, only lasting for a couple minutes, but it feels like an eternity. You know what's happened. Abby clearly knows what's happened, but seeing her cry and express her love through the void is suffocating. The sound of silence is deafening. Abby's verbal grief is really fucking tough to read. And the day ends with a profession of love, punching the wind out of the player's sails, and regret that will take Abby to her grave. I wish I could have held you for real. 𝗃𝗏 is about body horror. 𝗃𝗏 is about extravagant foot fetishism. 𝗃𝗏 is about sloppy, messy, lesbian cybersex. 𝗃𝗏 is about faggot getting thrown around like candy. 𝗃𝗏 is about an inevitable, drawn-out death. 𝗃𝗏 is about love. And 𝗃𝗏 is a short and powerful experience. Thank you all for watching, and a huge thanks to nadianova for creating this odd yet beautiful piece of storytelling. If you liked the video, feel free to like, comment and subscribe, and let me know if you'd like to see me cover more niche games like this. It is quite tough to script a video like this for obvious reasons, but if you're aware of any experiences like this, I'd be interested to hear your suggestions. Until next time, I'll see you in the future.